So it finally happened. I have officially fallen way behind on NaNoWriMo. It started last week around Wednesday. Things were getting busy leading right up to Thanksgiving break. And then since I've been home, I just haven't been able to keep the pace up for a variety of reasons. One, I think I'm feeling fairly burnt out from the first half of this challenge. And second, because I'm spending a lot more time with my family. We're sort of getting a lot of stuff done before we have family over for Thanksgiving. And also just, there's always stuff to do when I'm home. People need help with stuff. We need to go certain places to do certain things. I think a lot of people know the vibe in that regard. I'm here and I'm present, and that's that on its own is enough to kind of get in the way of NaNoWriMo. And I'm not mad about that. I don't want people to think that I am. It's really good to be home. It's good to see my family. These are things that just don't come up any other time of year other than now. And I feel like as I started to fall behind, I realized how, I don't want to say insane of a challenge NaNoWriMo is. I think that it is very doable if you're able to kind of make it through the Thanksgiving week. I think this just wasn't the month for me to do it. That said, I feel so good about having the amount written that I do, and in the grand scheme of writing a novel, there is no reason why the first draft has to happen within a month with no stops. I think the momentum at the beginning of the month that I had is super valuable, and now I know how to get that, which is a really sort of important skill that I was able to take away from this. And I'm still going to be continuing until the end of the month. Don't get me wrong. I will sort of have an end of the month update for you, but this is kind of where I'm at. I'm not really expecting to hit the 50,000 anymore. I would like to get back on the 1,000+ side of things per day after this week. I think that would be good. I would like to be sort of writing consistently at that high word count again, because just I see how powerful that is. But this week in particular, I'm trying not to sweat it because there's a lot of reason to not sweat it. Reasons like I would like to have, I don't know. I hate the terminology one, that NaNoWriMo tends to use. Here's how you win NaNoWriMo. If you do this, you'll definitely win NaNoWriMo. I feel like that wording of it isn't super productive, at least for me. I think that I would love to reach 50,000 words for this novel, but I feel like constraining that just to November is really limiting. There's part of me that does wish that I was able to keep that pace that I had for the first half of this. And there's another part of me that's realizing just how valuable it is to then sort of quote unquote lose to see why I found winning important in the first place. That being, I do want to, I do feel passionately about this project, and I do want to reach 50,000 words for a first draft. Even more if I can, if I feel like it needs that once I get to 50,000. Sort of knowing that I can do that in a reasonable amount of time is huge. But even say 30,000 words. So I'll probably circle back around to this stuff. But this week, what I've been doing is trying to write at least a little bit a day. I've gotten a couple hundred words down every day that I've been home. And so at least it's something. I'm not taking a full, entire rest. I still have my mind on this project. But what I'm trying to do in the time that I sort of should be writing, but I'm not, the time that I'm not spending with family, the time that I'm not spending seeing friends, the time that technically I should be probably writing during. If I'm not feeling the writing, if I've gotten my couple hundred words in that day, I'm trying to read about writing. And that's proving to be sort of really helpful too. I think the more different perspectives on writing that I can get, the better. And what better people to to look to than actual writers who have written about their experiences with it. So right now I'm on top of Mort by Terry Pratchett that I'm also reading. I love that book. It's a great sort of fantasy. It's absurdist. It's really good. I'm enjoying it a lot. But kind of alongside it, I'm reading Writers on Writing, which is it's a collection of essays from writers about writing, collected by a writer for the New York Times. And I'm only a couple essays into it, but all the essays are really short, and they've all provided some sort of insight about writing that I've never had before. And yeah, I don't know. It's getting me to think differently. Since they're short essays, I get to sample a bunch of different writing styles, and they're giving me ideas for ways that I can improve my writing just on the first draft, which I find to be something that I struggled with for the first few weeks of this challenge, is that I feel like the quality of my writing just wasn't satisfying. And I think that anything I can do to improve the quality of my writing while I'm getting that quantity will make me feel even better about it. So I feel like this isn't stuff that I'll be able to apply all of it right away, but sort of having this in the back of my mind going forwards, I think will motivate me and get me to think more creatively about the ways in which I'm writing, and trying to draw on the experience of other people who have walked this path before. It sounds super sappy, and a romantic way of looking at it, but I am seeing myself as part of a long line of novelists. Which novelists I am part of the lineage of, I haven't sort of decided yet, but that's something that I do want to sort of try and figure out for myself, is what tradition of writing do I see myself falling into, and how can I learn from that? How can I draw on other writers and really use that to my advantage? There's a book that I listened to the audiobook of How to Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. And I'm pretty sure that tip came from that book. If it didn't, it came from someone else who's clearly very knowledgeable about sort of how to get yourself motivated and take your art seriously in a way. But Steal Like an Artist, I've really sort of tried to take to heart with this, and almost unabashedly, not ripping off, but really being aware of my influences and leaning into them as much as I can. It's easier said than done, and while I'm in the act of writing, it's rarely on my mind. But I think reading about writing has gotten me to think more about that, and I'm able to approach the page a little bit more intentionally, and it makes me feel I don't know if it's a I wouldn't call it a painkiller. I wouldn't call it like a spoonful of sugar to help the medicine go down. But it makes me feel proud to be a writer. It gives me a concept of what a writer is and how I fit into that. There's a lot of ways that sort of reading what writers have to say about writing helps me feel like part of it. If you're also a writer, maybe you've experienced imposter syndrome. I feel like when it comes to writing a novel, that is huge. It's like, who am I to write a story? Why would anyone, I know that I have good things to say, but why should anyone else think so? And it's, especially in the first draft, especially when this draft is extremely rough and I know what's wrong with it, and I am preventing myself from going back and fixing it for the sake of reaching a word count, it's so easy to feel like, not that, I don't think I'm a bad writer. I'm not down on myself in that way. But it is easy to say this isn't a real book. And it's an easy trap to fall into. So I'm trying not to do that. Going back to what I was saying about falling behind on the word count and sort of breaking free of the idea that the novel has to be drafted in a month. I just the other day, I emailed one of my professors because I got confused. The group that I was working on a project with, we got confused about the due date, and we thought that we were like a day late turning in our assignment. And I emailed my professor, like, we got our draft together, or we got our paper together. We sent it to him, and I was like, so sorry, it's late. Like, we got confused about the due date, and like holiday travel and all that got in the way. So here it is. Here's our draft. Sorry, it's late. And he responded with, to paraphrase Douglas Adams, the only good thing about deadlines is the whooshing sound as they rush past, or it was something like that. And I remember liking that quote when I first read it, and then hearing it again in a context where I thought that I had missed a deadline, was, I don't know, it was such a good application of it, and I think also really applies well to what I've been feeling with NaNoWriMo. I don't know, there's some joy to be had in like the writing off of a arbitrary deadline that you set for yourself. And yeah, like, it's good to have a goal of a deadline, and it really helps creatively a lot to have that constraint. But sometimes the best part of it is the whooshing sound. And remembering that, I think, is getting me to be a lot happier with where I'm at and reflecting on the words I've written so far as a huge accomplishment, rather than falling short of something as not winning NaNoWriMo. Like, yes, I want a 50,000 word draft of a novel. No, I don't care about winning necessarily. So I am realizing that. I'm still kind of coming to terms with that, because I was dead set on reaching the goal by the end of the month. I wanted to make these vlogs with updates of my success. But I think that telling you about the sort of, at this point, I don't even want to call them failures. I don't want to call them shortcomings, because I do feel like I've learned so much and have unlocked a new side of NaNoWriMo by falling behind on the word count and not sort of beating myself up about not being projected to finish on time. Like, okay, is it still possible for me to finish on time if I bust my ass to do so? Yeah, it's possible. Do I feel the need to do that, especially with all the schoolwork and seeing family and spending time doing things that I need to do and love to do? No, I'm not gonna break my neck trying to accomplish that. I'll just finish it in December. It's really not worth the pain that it would take to accomplish that, to do it in the month, because yeah, there's no timeline for novels. I think I was watching an interview of Donna Tartt recently, and she was talking about how it took her 9 years to write The Secret History, and it shows in the refinement of that book. It's like, when she said that, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That is 9 years worth of effort that she put into that book. And like, I feel like if I'm gonna make a book that's worth reading, it's not gonna, it makes sense that it wouldn't be drafted in 1 month. Not to diss any books that are drafted in 1 month or anything. I think it's very possible to get a solid, good draft there, but I'm also realizing just how little I knew my characters going into that, and that might be the biggest determinant of how far I was able to get. I say that as if I'm stopping. I'm not stopping. I'm going to continue. But now with the perspective of, okay, I'm not going to finish. What can I do to ensure the longevity of this project and make it something that I want to continue writing and will be successful at continuing to write. Success meaning I'll be able to get it to a point that I'm happy with eventually, that the plot will make sense, that the character arcs will be satisfying, and that the plot will have the development and the complexity that I want it to. I feel like I'm not feeling the pressure to have a time constraint on that anymore. So thank you, NaNoWriMo, for showing me that. I will have an end of the month update, so stay tuned for that, because this isn't the end. I don't want it to seem like I'm finished, like I'm giving up, like I'm ending NaNoWriMo now. That's not the case. at this point, I know that I'm not going to reach the 50,000 words by November 30th. And where does it go from there? What's the next step? That's the question that I'm going to be answering this next week.